Two women grew up on the same street, same neighborhood, same school, same starting point. Their parents earned roughly the same income. They graduated the same year. They both got their first jobs around the same time. Decent jobs, nothing spectacular, but enough to build something real. By the time they turned 45, one of them owned her home outright. She had no debt. She had enough invested that she could stop working tomorrow and be fine. Not rich in a flashy way, just completely, quietly free. The other woman, same street, same start, was working a second job on weekends. She was behind on a credit card. She'd refinanced her house twice. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't reckless. She worked hard, maybe harder than the first woman. Her house looked fine from the outside. Her car was newer. But underneath all of it, there was this constant, low-grade pressure that never went away. A tightness she couldn't quite explain to her husband. A dread that came every time she opened her email and saw something from the bank. Same street, same start. Completely different lives. And here's the part that will stay with you. The difference between them was not income. It was not luck. It was not inheritance. It was not talent. It was a small set of rules that one of them followed quietly, without ever talking about it. Rules so simple, they almost sound too obvious to matter. And yet, compounded over 20 years, they created two completely different realities. Reframe. This isn't about making more money. It's about keeping it, directing it, making it work in silence while you live your life. Most people think financial stability is about earning more, so they chase raises, they start side hustles, they look for the next opportunity. And none of that is wrong, but it's treating the symptom, not the system. You can pour water into a bucket with holes in it forever and wonder why it never fills up. What actually separates people who feel financially secure from people who feel financially anxious, regardless of income, is not how much comes in. It's the rules they follow with what they have. Promise. I'm going to show you the rules that determine whether money stays in your life or quietly disappears from it. These are not hacks. They are not shortcuts. They are the quiet, non-negotiable principles that financially stable people follow almost without thinking, because at some point they understood what it really cost them not to. Pay attention, because some of these are going to reframe something you've believed about money for a long time. The rules. Rule 1. Spend less than you earn, by a margin that actually matters. I know, you've heard this before, but you haven't heard it the way I'm about to say it. Most people who believe they follow this rule are technically correct. They don't go into debt every month, their expenses are slightly below their income, they're fine. But here's what most people miss. The margin matters more than the principle. If you earn $3,000 a month and spend $2,900, you are following the rule in name only. A single unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance, and you're in debt. 1 month of financial friction and the whole structure collapses. The rule isn't just spend less than you earn. The rule is spend meaningfully less than you earn. The standard guidance is 20%, and I'll tell you, that number is not arbitrary. At a 20% savings rate on a modest income over a working lifetime, you accumulate real security. At a 3% savings rate, which is what most people actually save, you accumulate the illusion of it. The hidden consequence here is invisible for years. The person saving 3% feels fine month to month. They feel stable. They look stable. And then one day, the margin catches up with them, usually at the worst possible moment. Job loss, health crisis, economic downturn, and there is nothing there. No buffer, no runway, just exposed. The psychology? Most people optimize for how their financial life feels in the present, not what it produces in the future. Widening your savings margin feels like sacrifice, but it is, in reality, the only thing that buys you options. Rule 2. Never owe money on things that lose value. There is a category of debt that is genuinely useful. A mortgage on a home you can afford, a loan for education that leads to a higher income, a business investment with a calculable return. These involve borrowing against something that has the potential to grow, at minimum hold value. And then there is the other kind. Credit card debt for a vacation, a car loan for a vehicle you couldn't otherwise afford, buy now, pay later for a television. This is money borrowed against things that are worth less the moment you own them and continue losing value every year you're paying them off. Here's how it actually plays out in numbers. The average car loan in many countries carries an interest rate between 7 and 12%. The car itself loses roughly 15 to 20% of its value in the first year. So in year one, you are paying interest on an asset that is simultaneously shrinking. You are going backwards financially while feeling like you're moving forward because the car is in your driveway. It gets worse. When people carry a credit card balance at 20% interest on a $3,000 purchase, they often make minimum payments. That $3,000 balance at minimum payments takes over a decade to pay off and costs nearly double the original amount by the time it's gone. Nobody talks about this clearly enough. The poor and middle class pay interest, and the financially stable collect it. That is not a metaphor. That is the mechanical reality of how money moves between people. The rule is simple but demanding. If it loses value, pay cash or don't buy it yet. Rule 3. Build a wall between you and financial emergencies. Most financial advice calls this an emergency fund. That name undersells it. Think of it less like a savings account and more like a firewall. Its job is not to make you money. Its job is to ensure that when life sends something unexpected, and it always does, that event does not become a financial catastrophe that takes years to recover from. The target is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, not income, expenses, rent or mortgage, food, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments. That number for most people is somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000 depending on where they live. Here's the real-world psychology of not having this. When you have no buffer, every financial decision you make is made from desperation rather than choice. Your car breaks down and you have no cash, so you put it on a credit card at 22% interest. You get a medical bill and you have no cash, so you take a personal loan at 18% interest. You lose your job and you have no cash, so you take the first offer you get, even if it's the wrong job at the wrong salary, because you have no runway to wait for the right one. The wall doesn't just protect your money, it protects the quality of your decisions, and in financial decisions, the quality of your decisions over time is everything. Rule 4. Know the actual cost of every monthly payment you take on. This is the rule that quietly destroys more financial lives than almost any other, because it exploits something very specific about how our brains evaluate cost. When something is presented as a monthly payment, our brain evaluates it against our monthly cash flow and asks one question: can I afford this right now? It does not ask, what is the total cost of this decision? What is the opportunity cost? What am I committing my future income to? Consider this. A person takes on a car payment of $400 a month, a gym membership of $60 a month, a streaming service bundle of $80 a month, a furniture payment of $90 a month, a phone upgrade plan of $50 a month. None of these feel significant individually. Together, they are $680 a month in committed outflows before they've bought a single meal. Over a year, that's more than $8,000. Over 5 years, it's more than $40,000, much of it with interest attached. But here's what most people miss. The real cost isn't just the money spent, it's the investment that money never became. $40,000 invested over 5 years at a modest return doesn't remain $40,000, it grows. And the version of you who avoided those payments and invested that margin instead is not $40,000 ahead. They are significantly wealthier, because money that is invested compounds, and money sent to monthly payments compounds for someone else. The rule: before you take on any monthly payment, calculate the total cost, not the monthly cost, then decide. Rule 5. Understand that lifestyle inflation is the silent tax on success. You get a raise, you get a promotion, your income goes up by 15%. This is a moment that should materially accelerate your financial trajectory. For most people, it doesn't, because the raise is followed almost immediately by lifestyle expansion: a slightly nicer apartment, a better car, more frequent restaurants, better holidays. These are individually reasonable choices. Collectively, they consumed the raise before it ever had the chance to build anything. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the mechanism by which people can earn more every year for their entire career and still feel financially stuck at 50. The psychological driver is social comparison. When your income goes up, your reference group shifts. You start spending time with people at your new income level, and you unconsciously calibrate your spending to match what you see around you. Not out of greed, out of something much more ordinary: belonging, normalcy, the feeling that you're keeping up. The financially stable woman does something different at the moment of a raise. She treats the increase as invisible. She maintains her existing lifestyle and redirects the difference towards savings or investment. Not forever, but long enough to build a foundation that cannot be taken from her. The rule: every time your income increases, let your savings rate increase proportionally before your lifestyle does, even partially, even imperfectly. Rule 6. Protect your income like it's your most valuable asset, because it is.
Here is a fact that most people never sit with long enough to really absorb. Your ability to earn an income is, at almost any point in your working life, your most financially valuable possession. Consider a woman earning $50,000 a year from age 30 to 65. That is $1.75 million of future income sitting in her ability to show up to work. It dwarfs the value of her car. It likely dwarfs the value of her home for most of her life. It is an asset of enormous proportions, and most women leave it completely uninsured and underprotected. What protects income? Multiple things. Relevant skills that remain in demand so you're not easily replaced, an emergency fund so a job loss doesn't immediately spiral into debt, health, which people treat as permanent until it isn't, and actual income protection insurance, which most women in salaried employment have never seriously considered. The hidden cost of ignoring this is that a single event, illness, injury, job loss, industry collapse, can erase years of financial progress in months. The woman who treated her income as a protected asset is positioned to recover. The woman who assumed it would always be there often isn't. Nobody talks about this in personal finance the way it deserves to be talked about. Women obsess over investment returns on $10,000 while leaving $1 million of future income completely exposed. The math on that priority is backwards. Rule 7. Make your most important financial decisions automatic. Willpower is a limited resource. If your financial plan depends on you making the right choice every month, remembering to transfer money to savings, consciously choosing not to spend, it will fail at some point. Not because you're weak, because you're human. And humans have bad months, difficult weeks, and moments of poor judgment. The financially stable woman engineers her financial life so the important things happen automatically, whether she thinks about them or not. Savings is auto-transferred on payday before she sees it. Investment contributions are scheduled. Bill payments are automated to avoid late fees. This is not about being disciplined. It is about removing the need for discipline by removing the decision entirely. Here's the real-world impact. A woman who manually transfers money to savings every month will skip it some months. A hard month comes, the money is there in the account, and she rationalizes keeping it. Over a year, she might manage to save half of what she intended. The woman whose savings auto-transfers on the first of every month saves consistently because the decision was made once and then removed from the equation. The rule? Automate every financial behavior you want to be consistent. Good financial outcomes should not require your constant attention. They should be the default. Rule 8. Understand the difference between an asset and something that just feels like one. A car is not an asset in the financial sense. It is a depreciating liability with ongoing costs. A timeshare is not an asset. A boat is not an asset. A wardrobe of expensive clothes is not an asset. These things may bring value to your life in other ways, comfort, enjoyment, identity, but they do not make you wealthier. They make you poorer, usually on a schedule. An asset, in the disciplined financial sense, is something that puts money into your pocket over time or grows in value. A rental property, a stock portfolio, a business, a skill that commands increasing income. These are the things that, once acquired, begin to work for you rather than requiring you to keep working for them. The mistake most people make, and it is a mistake driven largely by how wealth is displayed in popular culture, is confusing the signals of wealth with wealth itself. The expensive car signals success, but does not produce it. The investment account doesn't look like much at a dinner party, but it is quietly building a future that no one around that table can see. The financially stable woman is invisible in this sense. She doesn't look the part. Her car is practical, her home is reasonable, and she has a net worth that would surprise you, built quietly over time by putting money into things that grow rather than things that depreciate. Rule 9. Never make a major financial decision in an emotional state. The best financial decisions are boring. They are calmly, with full information, without urgency, without emotional charge. They are made when you have slept on them, run the numbers, and consulted someone you trust. The worst financial decisions are almost always made under some form of emotional pressure. Fear of missing out, excitement, panic, the feeling of being behind everyone else, the desperate need for a quick fix. This is where predatory financial products live. High-interest loans marketed to people in crisis, speculative investments sold during market euphoria, timeshares sold over the course of a weekend in a resort where your defenses are down and the salespeople are skilled. These things do not survive calm reflection. They survive emotional states. The rule is simple. Any financial decision involving a significant amount of money gets a mandatory waiting period. 1 week minimum for anything significant, 1 month for anything major. During that time, the emotion fades, and what you're left with is clarity. And often the answer is no. Rule 10. Play the long game even when, especially when, it's boring. The most powerful force in personal finance is compound growth, and compound growth is fundamentally at odds with how human beings are wired to pay attention. We are wired for immediate feedback. We are wired to notice what's happening now, not what's being built invisibly over decades. A woman who invests $200 a month beginning at 25 and another woman who begins at 35 will end up at retirement with dramatically different outcomes, not because the first woman invested dramatically more money, but because the first woman gave her money more time to compound. A 10-year head start at modest returns creates a difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars from the same monthly contribution. That 10-year gap almost always comes down to one thing. The woman who started later was waiting for the right time, waiting until she earned more, waiting until the market looked better, waiting until things felt more stable. And every year she waited, the most powerful variable in her financial future, time, was slipping away from her. The rule is this. Start before you're ready, invest consistently rather than perfectly, and resist every urge to make the strategy more exciting. Boring, consistent, long-term investing has made ordinary women financially free than every exciting strategy combined. The close. Visual. Return to the quiet suburban neighborhood, same street, morning light. Remember those two women at the beginning? Same street, same start, different lives. Here's what actually happened between them. The first woman never earned dramatically more than the second, but somewhere in her 20s she quietly adopted a set of rules. She spent less than she earned, meaningfully less. She refused to carry debt on depreciating things. She built a cash buffer that meant no emergency could force her into a bad decision. She automated her savings and invested in things that grew. She didn't expand her lifestyle every time her income went up. She protected her income like the asset it was. She didn't talk about it. She wasn't disciplined in some dramatic white-knuckle way. She just made the right choices early, automated most of them, and let time do the rest. The second woman was not irresponsible. She just never had the rules. She made decisions the way most people make them, reactively, emotionally, month to month. She spent what felt comfortable. She took on payments that felt manageable. She expanded her lifestyle when she earned more because that's what everyone around her did. She intended to save more when things settled down. Things never really settled down. Two women, same street. The difference between them was not a secret. It was not talent or luck or extraordinary sacrifice. It was a small set of quiet principles followed consistently over a long period. The most dangerous financial situation is not the one that looks like a crisis. It's the one that looks fine until the day it doesn't. The rules don't ask you to live without joy. They ask you to build the foundation that makes joy sustainable. Security is not a number in an account. It is the feeling of knowing that whatever comes, you will be okay. That feeling is available to almost anyone, but it only comes to those who are willing to follow the rules before they have to. If this changed how you think about money, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more of this.